Hello, everyone.
Hi there, folks. Welcome. We got a bona fide party going on here. Thank you for being here. And if you would, while we're waiting for a few more folks to jump on, make sure that your name is correct on your screen by hovering over those three little dots. I'm sure we've got a bunch of Zoom experts in here at this point. So good. Well, I'm Mary Beth Abplanalp from Ministry Architects. I see a few familiar faces on here and a few new ones too. So if you're joining us for the first time for this cohort, I welcome you and am grateful for the opportunity to spend this time together. Ministry Architects has been invited by the Diocese of Indianapolis to partner with you all in this season of staff interim as you search for your next diocesan youth leader. Recognizing that many of you are continuing to serve in youth ministry, formation ministries, and deserve to have some support and an opportunity to gather along the way. So from that need, this cohort has been born, has met just a couple times, and will continue to meet throughout this academic year. So we welcome you back from time to time as your schedule allows. You know, there's no obligation here, no guilt if you miss one, just pop back in. We're glad you're here. So part of this time is to have an opportunity to be fed as leaders in ministry and gain some best practices and some grounding to inspire the work that we do. And part of this time is intended for fellowship and relational building across a large diocese. I was back there, or I was there in earlier this fall and got to drive across the diocese from Indianapolis all the way down to Evansville and back. And you all are in a beautiful part of the country and indeed very spread out. You've got a variety of different types of churches and ministries, some big, some small, some urban, some rural. So I'm going to assume that not everyone on here knows each other. So in the spirit of good youth ministry, I'd love for us to take a chance to introduce ourselves. And my request for you all is that you share your name, who you are, what your role is. Welcome, welcome. You're right on time if you're just logging in. You're doing great. Your name, what your role is in your church or ministry, and something that you are celebrating related to your ministry. Have you had a recent win, a meaningful impact, something that is bringing you joy? So something that you can celebrate. All right, so thank you for having your names up so I can call on you. We're just going to go around my Zoom screen, right? All right, Deb, I'm looking at you.
Hi. I'm Deb Wepler, so I'm am the camp director at Waycross that have been the last 2 years and will be this year. I'm a member of Trinity Anderson, which is about an hour and a half away from camp, so I'm not down there all the time. We just had a retreat with some of this year's CITs and LITs from camp, and we haven't done that before. And part of that is to keep them engaged because we, lost a lot of contact during COVID.
Thank you, Deb. All right, Larry from St. Paul's, Indy.
Hi, I'm Larry Krauser for St. Paul's. I'm a verger and I'm in charge of the acolytes, and I spent about 22 years at the national level with youth ministry with a program called Happening, which used to be a very dynamic program in this diocese, but it's faded away. But the happy thing I've had is that after COVID, we're getting much more participation from the youth involved in the acolyte program.
That's great. Thank you, Larry. All right, Emily.
Hello, I'm Emily Elam. I'm at Trinity in Bloomington. I do the children formation and youth ministry here. And a highlight recently has been, we haven't had lots of kids come to our youth co-op, but our Trinity kids have been the most consistent. So that's been great, that even though we're small in number, we have consistent kids. And I'll have to duck out early in our meeting too, so.
Quite all right. Thank you for being here. All right, Jesse Longsworth.
Hello all, I'm Jesse Longsworth. This is gonna sound a little weird, but I'm tied to Grace in Muncie. I'm actually employed at a Methodist church, but through the collaboration with the 6 mainline churches, I run the children, youth, and help run the college ministry at Grace Village at Ball State. And all the Episcopal kids, if they have any, come to my youth group. So through that collaboration. So this is my first time with the Episcopal faith, and I think that would be the celebration that I have, is that I'm invited here. So there you go.
Yay, welcome. Ed, it's good to see you.
Hey there. So I'm Ed Bird, he, him pronouns. I'm the chaplain of the campus ministry at Indiana University, and I am also doing some work with Trinity Bloomington Youth, as well as some work with youth at Waycross, and I think I'm doing something else, but I can't remember. Anyway, I've gotten bitten by the youth ministry bug, and I have kind of backstepped into youth ministry now. And the joy I have is that we have the most exciting stuff going this summer for youth. and more stuff than I could even physically go to. And I'm just so thrilled about that.
Fabulous. Love it. All right, Christian.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
I'm Christian Barron. I'm the new priest in charge in Crawfordsville. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm so new that everything is a joy and everything is a win.
Oh, hang on to that. That's so good. Kelly.
Hello. I'm Kelly Nixon. I attend St. Timothy's on the south side of Indianapolis, but I am also a member of the bishop staff here at the diocese, and I'm the assistant for congregational development. One of my other roles that I'm currently serving in is I'm the staff liaison for our renovation team, who is working to help with infrastructures related to youth ministry across the diocese. So for those of you that are new on the call, you probably got an email from someone on the team that I'm with, inviting you to come, regardless of whether your parish has a youth program or not. So my success is just seeing so many new faces here. And I'm so glad that you're here. So please don't feel out of place if you're like, well, but I'm not leading a youth group right now. We really value having you here so that you can be part of this too. So that's my success.
Thank you, Kelly. Over to you, Jason.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Fortner. My pronouns are he and him and his. And I am a curate at St. John's in Lafayette, which, Jesse, that's fancy Episcopal speak for a baby priest working under somebody who knows what's going on. And let's see. Yeah, I have a couple of Episcopal youths as well of my own, so I'm hoping to see what's going on with this program. And a recent joy is that a week ago, Saturday, I survived my first youth lock-in in 30 some years, and on the other side of the lock-in equation, and nobody died. So thanks be to God.
Indeed. So great. Benjamin. Or shall I say Benjamin?
Oh.
It's Benjamin, so that's his.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my name's Ben Sapp. I'm the senior warden and verger at St. Paul's Jeffersonville. And I guess one of our big celebrations that after 7 years, we finally have that pipe organ. So that had been a huge ordeal for us for the last few years. So we're glad to finally have that up and running and working. So
Fabulous. Thanks for being here, Ben. All right, Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Danke. I am the Director of Guest Services at Waycross. And so I was thinking about it, and the biggest win I think recently is Deb and I had a goal of getting that marketing material out for camp early this year, because we know every week of the summer is short and precious, and we wanted people to be able to plan their calendars accordingly. And so I was very happy that we were able to push that out earlier than later.
Fabulous. All right, and Andrew, my other son's name.
Hi, I'm Andrew Goldsmith from St. Paul's, Columbus. I'm senior warden. I'm afraid we don't currently have a youth group, but we have hopes. And Sam invited me to join, so here I am.
Good job, Sam. Good job, Andrew. Way to show up. All right, Timothy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Timothy Gogley, and I'm from St. Stephen's, Terre Haute. Our youth group is a joint youth group between the two Presbyterian churches, a Methodist church, and the Episcopal church. And the biggest celebration is that our Episcopal church doesn't have a lot of youth families, but now we're seeing a trend where there are younger families coming in, and there are so many youth joining us. So that is a big win for us. So it's very exciting to see younger kids join our youth group.
Yeah, I'll give some snaps to that.
Yes,
That's great,
absolutely.
Timothy. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Allison.
Hey, sorry I joined late. I am
You're doing
in the
great.
nursery at church right now.
I was gonna say, you brought toys with you for the party.
I did. My brother and his wife and their 18-month-old, my niece, just moved here from Texas, and the moving truck is at the house. And so my daughter Milo, who is 13, and my niece, who is 18 months, are here. And we came to the nursery because I realized with a 13-year-old and an 18-year-old, my house is no longer childproof. So we are.
Yes, there they are.
Yeah. They so anyway, so here I am.
Thank you for joining us in the midst of all of that. We're glad you're here. All right, let's see. Chris. Oh my goodness, that's my husband's name. My entire family is represented here today. So good. Chris, introduce yourself if you would. Just your name, your church, and something you're celebrating in ministry right now.
Hi, Chris Carter, St. Peter's Episcopal Church in Lebanon, Indiana. Still kind of new time Midwesterner, came out from Virginia, and been here for a couple of years. We love it. And something good. Well, I'm still alive. So is my wife. So I'm going to take that as a good positive right now.
Fabulous. So I live in Richmond, Virginia, Chris. So we'll have to play the name game and where you're from stories.
Williamsburg.
Williamsburg. Okay, fabulous. So good. All right. And I see Megan is here. Megan, are you able to join in and talk?
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's great.
Oh, hi. My name is Megan. Pronouns are she, her. I am a parishioner at Trinity, Indianapolis, and I am the parish administrator in St. Francis in Zionsville. And my personal win is that I'm just really looking forward to Christmas Eve and all of the wonderful services. And in my win at St. Francis, we're running a virtual gingerbread house contest, and I have one entry. So if it ends next week, so if I don't have anybody else, I have at least one winner. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, that's so great. I have two pretty pathetic looking gingerbread houses in my dining room right now. So if you need some extras, let me know.
Yes,
you know.
send me a picture. You could win.
I doubt it.
I think it's like a Starbucks card. It's not much, but it's something.
That's fun. That's fun. All right, folks. Well, I'm really glad you're all here. And as I mentioned before, I'll repeat myself. The focus of this cohort is to build some collegiality. We know that you all are spread out in pandemic. We've been very disconnected. And so truly just meeting some folks that you may or may not know. So along those lines, I want to take a little poll here with the show of fingers. We've got 4, 8, 12, 15, 16, 17 people on the screen. I'm curious how many people on this screen you already know, as acquaintance or particularly well. And based on however many you know, hold up that many fingers. Oh my goodness, I love it. We have multiple zeros on here. And only Kelly held up 2 hands, which is appropriate. Oh, did Ed have it? Okay, sorry, Ed, I missed you. Okay. Between Ed and Kelly, they know the people. But that's great. So my hope is that this is an opportunity to foster some connections. So feel free, if you want, to drop your phone number, email, name, church in the chat box and use that as a place for exchanging information. I presume you're here because you've either found it from the website or been invited to be a part of this. And my hope is that if you know others serving in ministry around you, that you'll invite them as well to join us again next month and be part of the invitation process that we can spread this around. Did y'all know that ministry in a pandemic is kind of hard? Have you figured that out? Ministry in a post-pandemic world is also proving fairly challenging. So we want to spend a little time today equipping you all with some tools for leading ministry, what that looks like, how to do it, and together we can do some problem solving and learning from each other. The past couple cohorts that we've done, one was focused on communication practices, how to reach out to folks in our congregations, how to intentionally make sure what we're sharing is both invitational and inspirational, that we're not just announcing, come to us, come to my thing, do my meeting, come to my Bible study book group, but really also feeding the needs of our youth and their families at the same time, and the volunteers that serve alongside us. So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to take a look at the website for the recording of that so that you can glean what you want from that cohort. We also have had one last month on volunteer recruitment and management. Ministry is not intended to be a solo gig. So how are we equipping the other leaders in our church to partner in ministry, form relationships with young people? For the couple of you in the Waycross environment, how are we equipping our staff as other leaders to share in ministry? So that's also something that you may want to look back at. And since our group is a little bit big, we will be doing some breakout groups today so that you have a chance to talk more directly with each other. Did anyone click on the wrong Zoom link and thought they were at some very different meeting than this, or are we all in the right place? Okay, whew, good news. All right, I'm just going to do a little spoiler alert up front because none of what we're going to be talking about today is my creation. I want to share a fabulous resource with you all called The God-Bearing Life by Kenda Dean and Ron Foster. Give me a thumbs up if you're familiar with this book. No thumbs. Not one. Oh my gosh, why did I give away the spoiler alert? I could have looked so smart. I have not written a book, but I'm excited to share this one with you, and I highly commend this to your reading list. This is one that I reread every year in Advent. It is very fitting for feeding my soul in doing youth ministry. So just a little bit about me. I've served in full-time youth ministry for 11 years at 2 different Episcopal congregations. Only in this last year am I now doing ministry architects consulting full-time. And so most of this I've learned right alongside you as a colleague and peer serving with young people. So the God-Bearing Life truly is the story of Mary, the mother of Jesus. God quite literally chose her to be the God-bearer of Jesus into this world. And through that incarnation, all of us have been able to understand Emmanuel, the God with us. And so when we think about youth ministry, each of us has been called to be a God bearer in our own ways with the young people that we serve. We are called time and time again to bring Christ into this world, to share with the young people among us. And in my youth ministry career, I have yet to come across a leader in youth ministry that hasn't themselves experience someone in their life that had a transformational impact on their call to ministry, on their identity as a Christian, and very often had a significant impact on the trajectory of their own life. So what I'd love for you to do is think for a second about someone in your life, particularly in your adolescence, who was a God bearer for you. So think on that for just a moment while I set up our breakout groups real quick. Okay, well, shucks, folks. Sorry, I'm not logged in correctly to be able to do the breakout groups. So we're going to do this as a whole group. Isn't that awesome? All right, little less chit chat, but Christian gave me a thumbs up, so that makes me feel better. He's having fun with everything right now. So Christian, do you mind me putting you on the spot? This is what you get for participating. Would you share with us a God bearer in your life?
Well, I haven't read the book yet, but
That's okay. You don't need to have read it by any means. Just, was there someone in your life who brought Christ alive and had an influence on your spiritual development?
absolutely. When I was a kid, there was a and he
We're having a little trouble with your audio there. How about this, Christian? When you get back to us, would you drop it in the chat box? And I'll keep moving around the room. Who wants to raise their hand and share about somebody who is a God bearer for them? Don't be shy. I'll call on you.
I can. So I came to faith in my 20s. So as an adolescent, the only one I could think of was my swim coach. But it wasn't really necessarily as a Christian-based thing. He was just a very encouraging person to be my best at who I could be. If you could talk about my spiritual formation, it'd be a guy named John Warner. I went to church with him and he was just a mentor. So
great. Thanks for sharing. That's all right, Christian. We lost you for a second. You back? Maybe, maybe not. Oh, he's at a coffee shop. All right. Can you hear us now? Great, there you are.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Tell us about your
Okay,
God
yeah,
bearer.
so his name is Larry Brines, and he was a butcher, and he believed in me maybe when he shouldn't have, or when I didn't believe in myself, but he always pointed me in the right direction. And he's a good man, and now things are much different. He and I understand politics much differently, but he was a guy that always was kind to me, even when maybe he shouldn't have been.
Oh, that's so great. All right, let's hear from one more. Emily.
I'll go. I grew up not Episcopalian, and my small town had a Bible college. And so we had professors who would sometimes teach our Sunday school class. And one was Neil Wyndham, who was very contemplative and very gentle. And he just was like a really, like, I don't know, guiding, calm presence, who was very devoted in his life in the Lord, and very inspiring for us young squirrely high schoolers.
That's great. Thank you, Emily. So these stories of the God bearers in your life, and those of you who just have that image in your head, that's often what feeds our soul and what called us into ministry in the first place. That's what sets us on fire for Jesus, as opposed to burning out doing ministry. And so if we were to really align our ministries that we lead with the influence of being God bearers, we actually stand the chance of having a deep impact on the young people that we're serving in the way that we have been previously impacted by the adults who have been God bearers to us. So many of our churches right now are modeled after the age-old youth group design, where youth are gathering often on a Sunday night or a Wednesday night, separate from the life of the congregation. The trouble with this model that we've learned is that when we separate youth from the relationships of the church, from the God bearers who have the potential to influence them, they actually are not able to develop the muscles of spiritual practices to sustain them. They tend to have less connected relationships across generations that inspire them. And so youth group in itself is not actually bad. Youth group is a place intended to be safe and welcoming, and a place where teenagers can look at their peers as they work to identify their own selves, right? This is a highly influential time of claiming our identity. And youth groups, when done well, help those teenagers find their identity in God's love for them and God's call on their lives. Unfortunately, all too often, our program-based youth ministries, which I know some of your churches, you've said you don't even have one, that's not necessarily a problem, not having a youth group, because often our youth groups get caught in a program-based model where we're doing youth ministry to be entertainers of teenagers or a social convener of friends. When we lose sight of the incarnational ministry and the opportunity to be God bearers in relationship with teenagers, we start to burn out quickly, because that tends to be less impactful, less rewarding, less life-giving to us and to the teenagers. So youth groups that are well integrated in the life of the church and highly relational, highly incarnational, and truly rooted in the story of God's relationship with God's people and what that means for our life now in 2022. That's where we start tapping into something that is inspirational and that perhaps our youth 20 years from now will talk about when they're in a colleague Zoom meeting as being something that influenced them. I do want to share with you a picture of this concept. When we have what we call this is a one-eared Mickey Mouse, when we isolate our youth ministries as a separate entity from the life of the church, we're actually doing a huge disservice for our youth. So I'm 38. I'll name it and claim it. And I'm from that classic 1990s generation of youth. I graduated high school in 2002. I'm in that generation where there was a huge boom of youth. And the majority of my peers are not active in a faith life or in a church congregation. I have a ton of my youth groupie friends that showed up, in my Facebook feed. This was in the beginning days of Facebook. So I see memories from our graduation party. And to my knowledge, most of them are no longer affiliated with a church. And what we've learned is, like this picture shows you, when we've isolated the youth ministry from the collective congregation, from the leadership in worship, from service to our neighbor, we've detached them from the relationships that sustain and model a lifelong faith. Instead, what we'd recommend is this kind of image. And this is a lot of what Kenda and Ron talk about in the book. In this model, the youth ministry are teenagers and children that are incorporated into the life of the church. And again, there's still a time and place for peer gatherings, for that social development of mirroring and getting a sense of who am I among my peers as they develop their own identity. But all of this is to say, to give you permission, if you're concerned or worried that you don't have an organized youth group, I suspect you have a teenager or two, or maybe a new baby in your congregation And how can we shift our mindset from what we don't have that has actually proven wildly unsuccessful, and instead think in terms of how can we be God bearers in relational ministry with these young people. So I have another activity for you as we think about our current ministries and what we're doing. Find something to scribble on in front of you. If you want to use the whiteboard, Allison, there's a cute little one on that easel behind you. A napkin would do just fine. Or if you want to open up a new blank Word document, go for it. But I want you to create 2 columns. You're not going to have to share this with anybody. We'll have the opportunity to share, but you won't have to show it. I want you to make 2 columns. And this is a self-assessment of your ministry right now, whatever your context and whatever your role. In the first column, I want you to name programs. So what are the organized things we're doing targeting children, youth, whatever your context is? Programs. Top of the other column, I want you to write relational ministry. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to fill in those columns with what you're currently doing that is program-based and what is relational-based. I'm going to set a timer, and in 2 minutes, we'll come back and have some discussion and sharing. All right, 30 more seconds. All righty. All right, let's do a little temperature dial here. How was that for you? Was that fun and easy, or was that uncomfortable and challenging, or somewhere in between? Okay, okay. We have a few that are abstaining from voting, and I'm gonna resist the urge to call on them first. But Andrew, I saw you do a little flippy floppy. Talk to us.
Yeah, I wrote a couple of things down for programs. I wrote outreach and building maintenance. And then I try to figure out how those have relational ministry with them. And I thought about Love Chapel, which is a feeding a pantry program that we have in Columbus, and we do meals with them. And from time to time, members work at the chapel and distributing food and things like that. So that I would describe as a relational ministry. And I thought about the meetings that we have related to the project. So we have from time to time a meeting on the signage of the church, and also a meeting on church use that is something that diocesan program that we're involved with. And then I thought about coffee hour and the newsletter, which is also relational that we deal with. So
Coffee hour is super relational, and it's very often the like afterthought to everything else we do.
right. Well,
I'm
we
so
find
glad
that
you named that.
yeah, we find if we have them every Sunday, we don't get the support that we get if we do them once a month. And I think that is related to the layout of the building, where you have to physically move into the parish hall rather than sort of wend your way out of church and get snagged by the smell of coffee.
Yeah. I think the word there is intentional. So intentional gathering. There's a lot there.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, Jesse, or not Jesse. We've heard from Jesse. Jason.
Yeah, I have kind of a triangle of things if I didn't break the rules. Let's see what happens. So program wise, Godly Play came to mind first. That's, very, for now, mainly younger kids oriented, but we're hoping to fire back up the junior high-ish class for that. For relational ministry, I put youth group activities because that's really what we're focusing on now, is just getting these kids back together after COVID so they remember what it's like to be with other, I was going to say human beings, but I know better than to say that, other people, because they're kind of wild. They're not all that human sometimes. But in the middle, so I straddled the two columns. I hope it's allowed, Mary Beth. If not, then I apologize.
Permission granted.
But
yes.
Thank you. I wrote intergenerational worship because we have like once a month in the evening a meal and an activity, and then a brief worship service for the youth of the church and their parents and anybody else who's supposed to show up. So it's pretty intentionally intergenerational, and it's been a pretty big success for the past several months. We hope to keep that rolling after the first of the year. And so that helps the parents get to know one another. It helps the kids see that interaction and gives them a chance to interact with other people who may be God bearers, because, sometimes your parents are not the ones you want to receive that from. So we're hoping that will keep rolling. So there's my triangle of youth group things.
That's a good triangle, Jason.
Thanks.
Sounds very Trinitarian, which sounds very fitting. So
That's how we do.
Yeah. Baby priest is doing really good over there. Keep up the good work. All right, Timothy, anything you want to share?
Sure. So I could think more about relational. We every month, we meet because we joined youth group. We meet between different churches.
The Methodist church, is that what you said?
Methodist, Presbyterian, and Episcopal Church.
Woo, another Trinity.
Yeah, so we try to move between different churches so that the youth, they feel like they belong to each part of the church and not just like, hey, this is my church, I just want to stick with this. So having fellowship with everybody and communion with everybody. So when we do that, we invite the parishioners to join us, or the church members to join us, provide meal and share their favorite scripture, and sometimes share the lesson. So if you're meeting for 4 Sundays there are 4 different individuals, including the priest and other members of the church. Some people are providing food, the other person is sharing the word, the other person is sharing their favorite scriptures. So it's like bringing everybody into the conversation. So maybe if you're from Episcopal Church, you know the person, but if you're from Methodist or Presbyterian, you do not know the person. But now you do know who they are. And we rotate monthly, and that's a fantastic thing for each youth to recognize each member of the church. And towards the end of the academic year, what we do is we have a youth Sunday, and we rotate between the 4 churches. And the youth take over the Sunday, they do the worship, they do the liturgy and everything from start to the end. So they literally run the show, and it's so inspiring. And whatever they've learned throughout the year, we have one youth share the sermon, the other youth do the liturgy, and the other person acolyte. So they're embodying the adult worship, but it's the youth running the show. So that's the relational concept we have here.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Anyone else want to share? Got time for one more. Allison.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
So it's not the whole church service, but we have our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders plan and run our children's chapel. And so, because a lot of them, we found that after they go through confirmation, they don't really they'll still come to some youth group activities, but they don't want to do just regular Sunday school formation anymore. Please don't throw her that high, sorry. And so we've had our older kids, they plan the lessons, they pick what they're going to teach. We have an adult for emergencies, but they have to commit to the whole year. And so I think this year we have 6. And so they take the kids out during the church service, the pre-K through 2nd graders. For children's chapel, they teach it, they do a craft, they do a lesson, and it's every Sunday, and they've felt involved. And so I've really liked that. And I think that some of the younger youth are also looking forward to being able to be old enough to be part of the internship team.
Oh, I love it. That's great. So great. Y'all are doing it. There's a lot happening that's both programs for that regular opportunity to gather, and hopefully from that, we're doing really relational ministry. And if you are in a smaller congregation or a startup that doesn't have that kind of infrastructure yet, just know that you don't have to have a youth group or big retreat weekends or even a lock-in to have God-bearing incarnational ministry with young people. I want to share with you a story of one of my own sort of God-bearers in my life right now. My husband is a full-time graduate student for nurse anesthesia and spends a lot of his time at the hospital currently. We've got 2 young boys, Andrew and Benjamin, that are 3 and 5. We don't have any family that lives nearby in town. And so we've had to learn how to juggle the demands of school, the demands of work, and raising the 2 most rambunctious boys I've ever met. And it's a big juggle. And our church family has been tremendously supportive in this process. And one of the God bearers where God reveals himself to me in very tangible incarnational ways is one of our neighbors, and her name is Laura Shuford. She lives right around the corner from us, maybe 100 yards as the crow flies, and goes to church with us. So that's how we met her originally. Well, Laura and her husband decided to get a puppy a few years ago, and they have one of those invisible fence collar things. But this puppy needed some exercise and a playmate. Well, we have a big chocolate lab and a fenced in yard. And Laura routinely now comes over. She's got a code to our little thing on the front door. She's got a code, comes in, She takes our dog out of its crate and lets both of them run and play in our backyard. Sometimes when she's here, she's been known to do whatever dishes are in the kitchen sink. She just yesterday dropped off a poinsettia in our living room. And she's also been known to hide presents under my children's pillows. The other thing that she's done is leave a Post-it note when she comes in with her little things, and it'll say, "How can I be praying for you?" Or, "I know you're tired. I'm praying God gives you energy." Those little subtle things have been so restorative and life-giving to my husband and I. And it's that shift from not just a really great friend and, surrogate grandparent here in town, but a shift to somebody willing to be incarnational for my family in a way that requires a little bit of intentionality. She could have done all of those things and be wildly popular in my family, right? The presents, the dishes, the dog, all of that of itself is totally awesome. The shift here was that she went to a space of being a God bearer in a way that has helped us experience Christ in our lives, as opposed to just a really phenomenal neighbor. So as you're going about your ministry, I encourage you to think in terms of your programming, your time allocation during your day-to-day and in your week, your conversations with your volunteers, and thinking carefully, how am I showing up as a leader? Am I showing up as an entertainer and an organizer and an event planner? Or am I showing up as an incarnational God bearer that can relate with young people, their parents, my volunteer team, my congregation, in a way that is truly revealing Christ to these young people in an unexpected way? Even better is if you can help them realize that they themselves can be God bearers. Once we model it for them, we help paint a picture of what that can look like. And so I've taken a note from Laura Shuford with the gift drop-off and the prayer Post-it notes. And I've done that for other folks when they've had COVID and are in quarantine. Here are some stickers to entertain your children for 10 minutes. Here's a meal, and know that we've blessed it and hope it's a blessing for you when you're tired. I probably wouldn't have done that, right? That may not have been occurred to me, but it was modeled for me, and I've been able to now share that with others. So the work that you all do matters. And when we do it in a spirit of being God bearers, it tends to be really richly rewarding. And so as we come out of this pandemic and navigate this Advent season, I suspect some of you are pretty tired, maybe even weary or discouraged and frustrated. Again, ministry has been particularly hard in this season of our world. And so my prayer for you all is that in this Advent season, and perhaps with the help of reading a really great resource, again, I'll hold it up so you can put it on your Amazon wish list. My prayer for you all is that by being God bearers, you experience Christ in a way that rejuvenates your ministry and helps you become a God bearer for the teenagers in your midst. All right, so with that, I'm done on my pulpit. I encourage you to jot more information in the chat box. A few of you have already shared information talking about your role, a desire to collaborate. Lean into each other. It's more fun with friends. Heck, share your address and let them know the code to the door so they can come do some dishes and play with your dog. You might have a phone call with them first before you take it to that level. All right, a couple announcements for you all as well. The diocese is working to organize a youth mission trip next summer. If you all are interested in that for your youth, rather, I encourage you to make this known and available to the youth in your church as an opportunity for service next summer. Information about that mission trip is on the website. There is also an effort in the works to participate in the National Episcopal Church's Episcopal Youth Event. This is an event that happens every 3 years and has been, thrown off its cycle because of the pandemic. It is coming back this summer in 2023 to the University of Maryland. And there is a effort with the Diocese of Indianapolis to organize a group to travel together for that event as well. So 2 long-term things that are actually not far off. As our friends at Waycross know, now is the time to put the dates out and do the planning. So I encourage you to look at the diocesan website for that information and let your folks know, have a save the date about that also. Yes, Kelly.
I just want to share. So there isn't a registration yet for EYE, but the hope is that that will be developing soon. So just a heads up, that's not on the website yet. I will share for the mission trip, registration has been up for youth for a while, but we have now added an adult registration line on there as well. So Allie, I saw that you're going to be going. And so any adults that are interested in chaperoning and attending along with the youth, you should now be able to go online and register your information. It's no cost for the chaperones. So just an awareness that you don't have to pay anything when you go to sign up. We just need your information for the trip. And to let you know expectations for you. So
woo, free vacation with your favorite teenagers. That's awesome.
Right, like who wouldn't sign up? I know they need more chaperones. So yeah.
Fabulous. Oh, I just love it. So good. And if you're not familiar with EYE, it's a huge event, sort of picture youth conference, formation, great worship, breakout groups, exploring the city. Some service components, pretty powerful mountaintop experience for Episcopal youth from all over the world to gather. Okay, and last but not least, we have our next cohort meeting coming up on Thursday, January 12th. Now, this particular meeting had 20 people registered for it, and I just want to tell you the power of relational ministry. Raise your hand if you were invited to this meeting today. Okay, look at that. The previous 2 meetings, when we had only posted it on the website and sent it in the email, I'm going to look at my exact numbers. We had 4 people show up in October. One of them was on the diocesan staff, Kelly, and we had only 6 show up in November. Again, diocesan staff and members of the renovation team that are working with ministry architects to build this infrastructure. Then members of the renovation team made personal invitations to leaders across the diocese. And today we had 18 come, and I got emails from others saying they couldn't make it because of, life. That is relational ministry. So I encourage you all to lean into the small, subtle things, be it a text message to your favorite acolyte that they come and join you on Christmas Eve this year or at Lessons and Carols. Text your recent graduates and say, hey, I hope I get to see you when you're home over Christmas break. Those relational gestures matter, especially in small churches where you don't have big programs. To be known and seen is exactly what the work of God bearers do. My hope is that you all will be God bearers to your colleagues who are sharing in this work across the diocese, whether they're lay, ordained, paid, volunteer. We welcome them to come on January 12th. And we've adjusted the time. Instead of being late afternoon, 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central, we've shifted it to a lunchtime. And currently our registration for that is much lower. I want to show of hands, is that because of scheduling, or is that because we just haven't registered? So raise your hand if you want to go, but you can't because it's middle of the day. Okay, we got 2, 3-ish. Okay.
What time of, is it noon-ish or what?
It's scheduled for 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central.
We have mass at 12, so sorry.
Yeah, you never have to apologize for worshiping in my book. Okay, so raise your hand if you want to go and you just haven't registered. Okay, great. No judgment here. Okay, raise your hand if you just don't like this cohort and it's not worth your time. You're not going to hurt my feelings. We just need a judge of what's helpful for you all. Somebody's lying. Okay, I'm not going to call you out, but all right, we will keep it at 12:30. If you want to participate, sign up. If you want to come after Mass, you can show up late. We collected a list of topics from the youth ministers in the previous groups that were of interest to them. Since we have a larger pool of input today, if you would drop in the chat box topics that you would love for us to cover, this one was intended to feed our soul for ministry. So if there's anything else you need, drop it in there so that we can incorporate that into future cohort topics. And your homework between now and then is to be God bearers to the youth that you serve and to the colleagues that serve alongside you. Sound good? All right. In closing, let me offer a prayer. The Lord be with you. Lord, like a loving parent, you offer your comforting hand and tell me not to be afraid. Help me to wait for your coming with patience and to listen to what you ask of me. I want so much to be one of your people and to live my life in you. Thank you for the way you bless my life. Thank you for listening to my prayers and for planting deep in my heart the knowledge that with you, nothing is impossible. Amen. All right. Happy Advent, people. So good to see you. Thanks for spending your afternoon with us. Copy the
Happy Advent,
message.
Mary Beth.
Thank you. Copy the chat box. Make a friend.